Hey guys, today we are back in Godot and I want to finish up my upgrade system. I want to get this system operational so I can test it and make sure that it's working properly and that I enjoy it, and if so, then we'll keep it in the game moving forward. We already have a starting point for the UI in front of us. This is the upgrade menu and it incorporates a spinning wheel in the center with a little spin button, as well as a list of the upgrades and their descriptions on the right side of the menu. Now this is pretty simplistic because for right now, I just want to implement the actual systems behind it and ensure that I like them and that they work well with the gameplay before spending a whole lot of time polishing the UI. So we're going to do this fairly quick and dirty today just to make sure that it works properly. So to start, let's quickly go over the hierarchy for this particular panel. This is the upgrade menu that houses, like I said earlier, the upgrade wheel as well as the 6 panel objects here that describe the actual upgrades that are listed in the wheel. So this upgrade menu will pop up whenever the player runs over an upgrade in the actual fighting portion of the game. And just to show you where we're at right now, if I click this little spin button down here, it spins the wheel. And that's all that happens right now. We just have a very simplistic UI implementation. There's not a whole lot of logic here. So that's what we're going to implement today, is making the rest of this work with everything. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the scripts. Now, this is the script for the upgrade menu, and it's pretty sparse right now. We just have an onReady variable for the upgrade wheel, which we are referencing by name, just in case this moves around in the actual hierarchy here, which it is likely to. I doubt that I will be satisfied with this orientation, and we will likely have to change where this lies. So accessing it by this naming nomenclature makes it so that if I move it around, I don't have to worry about this breaking. The next piece down here is this on upgrade wheel slot chosen, which passes in a slot number integer. And this is actually a signal. And so this is hooked up from the upgrade wheel itself. So let's go to the upgrade wheel and see what that is all about. So here we have our slot chosen signal declared. And down here on spin button pressed is when we actually emit that slot chosen signal with the slot number. So what is the slot number? Well, essentially it is a random number between 1 and 6 that we are generating that actually gives us our final results. So when we're spinning the reel, it's already deterministic. It looks like it's random, but we've already determined exactly where we want it to land. And we are just using a tween and some transitions here in order to actually rotate the wheel and get the final orientation where we want it to be so that it displays properly and looks like it's landing on that number that we've already determined. What will likely happen next is that we're going to need to implement some changes to the upgrade panel objects so that we can get them to flash. So right now, each of these individual objects, they don't have like a whole lot of code. We're just, setting the initial text based on the upgrade resource that is being given to them. And what we want to have happen is when we actually go to spin this particular wheel and we land on a result, ideally we would have some indication here on the right as to which of these buttons, is corresponding to the one that we just landed on. So in this case, it would be this upgrade. I don't know exactly which slot that is. We don't have, an arrow here. At some point, we'll need that to denote where this wheel is actually landing. We need some kind of indicator. For now, I'm just thinking it will flash a different color. Eventually, all of these would be a different color as well. Like it would, remove some of the alpha channel from them, so it makes them a little more hidden, essentially. To denote that, and then this one would flash if that was the one that was chosen, for example. So we need a way to determine which ones are actually being chosen by the wheel here when we spin it. Then once we have determined which of these upgrades has been selected and we have displayed that to the player, we'll then need to act on it with game logic and apply it to the player, do whatever comes after that. Like if there's a way for them to re-roll it, perhaps we'll have to incorporate that logic as well. But first up, let's get the UI hooked in here to this flashing portion. Okay, so this is Griffin from the future back, and I have implemented some logic in order to get the panels to flash. Let's take a look at how that works. So here's how it will function. So once we spin the wheel, we've got a flashing panel. Now, it's not flashing per se. It doesn't go back to the style that it was before. But for now, this is just fine. It still denotes which of these, has actually been chosen. And until we implement like a reroll logic, we don't actually want this state to go back to the way it was before. We really just want to keep this the way it is now, to denote that it has been chosen. And then if we were to like spin again, then we would want to reset it. So for now, this gives us a good starting point until we implement that reroll logic. So accomplishing this was actually pretty straightforward. I just had to get the array of upgrade panels in the actual upgrade menus so that I could call a flash function on them. So the way I got the upgrade panels was by taking the upgrade panel container, which is this vertical box container that I named and called with a specific name here, just in case I have to move it again. I got all the children in the underneath that actual parent container and filtered them to ensure that they were of type upgrade panel, because if you notice, I do actually have this label being listed under here as well, because this is a VBox container. So I have the upgrade title there, and we just need to ensure that everything that we're calling is an upgrade panel in order to actually call the functions on there and have it be type safe. So in order to accommodate for that, we're just checking to ensure that everything that we're returning is of type upgrade panel. And then we're calling an assign array option on this upgrade panels array in order to convert the children here from type node to type upgrade panel when they're actually being assigned to this variable array. And now that we've got our list of upgrade panels assigned on ready for whenever this object is instantiated, now whenever this signal is fired, remember this is the slot chosen signal from the upgrade wheel, we now have the ability to get that slot number from the wheel, and then we can call the appropriate upgrade panel in the list, so it goes down from 1 to 6, and then we can flash that particular panel. So let's look at that flash operation now. So we still have the same ready function that just sets the appropriate title, description, and icon based on whatever resource we're using, but now we have this flash function here, which returns a void. It's not important for what it returns. And really all we're doing here is just creating a new tween that modulates the color to a very bright white. Then we play that tween, and we don't do anything else after, like I said, because until we implement some kind of reroll or, the next state that it will need to take, whether that be exiting out of this menu and going back to the game and applying that upgrade or whatever we decide, this is fine for now, so we are going to leave it. I did have to make some changes to the upgrade wheel script as well. We are now using this tween callback to call a function to emit the signal for the slot chosen. Before we were doing it here on this on spin button pressed, and the problem with that was that it was actually flashing the correct upgrade slot the second you would hit the spin button, so it kind of takes all the mystery out of the spin, right? We don't want that. So instead now, as soon as the tween is finished playing, it emits this callback function, which then actually fires slot chosen. So then we can do whatever else we need to do with it. So I think next up I need to implement the reroll functionality as well as account for how many rerolls you have remaining. And that's because it will segue us nicely into updating this UI with relevant information. So changing this spin button to say reroll with a question mark, for example, to denote that, okay, you could be happy with your choice or you could reroll. And then we can also, implement things like the ability to accept your choice after that. But at least this will get us into the point where we've got updates to the state for the UI. So as I've been creating this reroll system, I've realized that I made a mistake inside of the upgrade wheel object itself. Right now I have the spin button attached to the actual wheel object, when in reality, I should probably have that be a part of the upgrade menu. I think the reason that I wanted this was in case I needed to extract the wheel and use it in another place outside of this menu. But I think if I want to do that, I should probably create a different menu to house it, or some kind of parameterized menu that could work in a couple of different places, because this is happening. So whenever I click the spin button and I'm out of rerolls, I am changing the text of the button to say out of spins and disable the button, right? The problem is, as you just saw, it shifted the whole wheel to the left because this button is getting resized. So I can either statically size the button, which will sort of work. You know, depending on how you size the screen, you know, it works in different ways. It does try to keep that aspect ratio, and it should work in the majority of cases. Um, as you can see there, it's holding the aspect ratio pretty well. The only problem with that is that it doesn't. I want to add more buttons here for the actual re-rolling portion. So if you have re-rolls left, right now I have 0, but if I had some re-rolls, you know, I would want this button to change to re-rolls, but I would also want a button to accept whatever upgrade I've rolled. And right now I don't have that, and it doesn't really make sense to put it in another spot that's not next to this, you know, spin button. So I think what I'm going to do is extract the spin button from the wheel itself and put it on the panel, move it down here, and then I can add the accept upgrade button, or whatever we want to call that, down here next to it for whenever we're done spinning. That also allows me to take the code that I have on the upgrade wheel for, you know, determining the slot number that we're actually going to be selecting, and move that up to the menu, because realistically that doesn't need to exist on the upgrade wheel itself. The upgrade wheel can just receive whichever slot has been chosen in post to do the things that it needs to do, like flash these signals or whatever. It doesn't need to be the one that's making that decision on what number it's going to be and passing it all the way up the chain. So we'll move that logic out to the upgrade menu, and then once I've got that figured out, then I can finish implementing the reroll system. So this is coming along great. I've got it all refactored now. We can see the spin button is over here underneath the upgrades panel, and it is now a part of this menu. And I've got this accept button, which is grayed out right now there currently. We've also got this rerolls counter up here. Let's see what happens when we hit spin. All right, we've landed on this one, which gives us upgrade number 5 here. And now we have the option to re-roll or accept. I'm going to re-roll. And there we've landed on option 5 again. We have no more re-rolls. We are now out of spins, and we can accept our option. So accept currently does nothing. Ideally, it will, you know, apply the upgrade and leave this menu. And so we'll implement that here shortly. I also want to implement a list of upgrades so that we can change each of these panels to be the respective upgrades, as well as change these icons on the wheel itself to represent these different upgrades. And we will have an upgrade manager that actually has an array of different potential upgrades that will then be used to populate this list. There could be 10 or 12 different types of upgrades in the upgrade manager, and it will apply randomly, essentially, which ones that you get to each of these slots based on what's available. And the goal of this upgrade system is essentially to allow for an element of chance in what you are actually getting for the player, like when you run over an upgrade in game. But we want to, as the player achieves more meta progression by building up the colony that they have landed on this, you know, foreign world in Dark Frontier, we want them to be able to mitigate the result of that chance, and that will be in the form of like getting new rerolls, in being able to swap these upgrades out for different upgrades, like actually like reroll the upgrades in these slots, or even cancel slots out. So there's lots of different ways that we can give this meta progression to the player that will allow them to control more of the chance instead of it just being like fully random. So that is a great way to convey progress to the player, because they now have control and power over the situation that they didn't before. So that's like a very obvious way to convey progress to the player. So that's kind of the overarching goal here for this system. And I think we're getting close to having all of the systems in place to allow for that. All right, so we were almost feature complete. Now we have 2 new managers in the main scene, one for the upgrades and one for the UI functionality. So let's start with the upgrade manager. So this is an entirely new class name, and it is going to manage everything to do with the upgrade system in the actual gameplay loop. So we have a list of all currently active upgrades in case we need to reference that. If we're creating a new entity, for example, we can pull from that list in order to make sure that we have all of the upgrades that are currently being used in the game and apply them to that new entity. Then we have the all upgrades resource group. And what this allows us to do is actually take all of our upgrade resources and compile them so that we can access them all in one place. So we have the damage and pierce resource files, and then the all upgrades resource group here on the left. And what we can do then is assign that resource group to this variable, and we can later then use it to actually pull the resource file that we want out of it and assign it in post inside of the code here. So it's just a helpful tool to allow us to change resources on the fly in case we need to pull those in depending on where we're at in the game state. Down here we've got some functions. So the ready function isn't used right now and we won't get to it in this video, but it's sometime in the future I will be using this portion to determine which upgrades can actually go in the upgrade pool. Right now I've just assigned that manually. We have the damage and the pierce upgrades that occupy the upgrade pool. But at some point, this will be declaratively instantiated and I will put that in this ready function. The next function, apply upgrade, is pretty straightforward. We take in an upgrade and we use that to append to our active upgrades array, as well as actually go and apply the upgrades for whatever entity that we decide. So right now I'm just checking to see if the upgrade entity is of type player, but in the future we could expand this very easily to include something like enemies. So if we wanted to apply our upgrades to an enemy, we could do something like buff their strength over, like the course of like a boss fight or something like that. But for now, we're just going to stick with the player type, and we just simply append the upgrade to the player's upgrades array. Next, we have on upgrade pickup, and this will actually trigger when the player runs over our little upgrade pickup on screen, and then this will actually present the upgrade menu as well as populate it and get it set up for the correct upgrades that we want. Lastly, we call the UI manager's show upgrade menu function, which we'll get into now. So this function just simply gets the scene tree and pauses the game, and then toggles the visibility of the upgrade menu and turns off the minimap and weapon container visibility. We don't want those things overlaying the actual upgrade menu because there is some transparency innate to the menus in this game. And so for now, we're just toggling them off, and then we are pausing the actual gameplay going on behind the upgrade menu so that the user doesn't have to worry about, getting overrun by enemies while they're trying to pick their upgrades. So with these two managers in place, the last thing I need to do is simply create the upgrade pickup that will drop when an enemy is killed. So I'll get to that and then report back here shortly. Okay, wrapping up. So now we have a random percentage chance, this upgrade drop chance, which I've just set to 50 for now for testing. And if we get a number that is, beneath that range, so in this case 50, then we have our new upgrade being added to our upgrade object pool, which I've just appended underneath the upgrade manager. And if you're unfamiliar with object pooling, it just allows me to create a whole bunch of objects all at the start of the level instead of instantiating them throughout. And that just helps with performance. So I'm not thinking that there will be a ton of upgrades, but just in case there are like 10 on screen or something, it's not going to generate too much of a performance hit while we're playing the game. So then I call the respawn function on the new upgrade and set its position to where the enemy was so that we can then just have a little upgrade drop. All right, so let's see that in action. I've upped it to 100% just to demonstrate here. And we can see I stepped on the upgrade that dropped, and we have our upgrade menu. The game is paused. We still got that slight translucent background so we can see where the enemies are. And now if I click spin, we've got our functionality. We've chosen the damage upgrade here. I could try and reroll for a pierce upgrade. Let's see if we can get that. There's only one chance here. Oh, we did get it. All right. So now when I click accept, that upgrade has been applied. There's just some final bug fixing and cleanup to do, but I'm very happy with the system and I'm excited to try it out and make sure that it fits with the style of game that I'm looking to create. I hope you found this informational and entertaining. There'll be a lot more to come from Dark Frontier here in the near future. Thanks. I'll catch you in the next one.